Welcome. Take a seat. Please adjust your chair. No, go ahead. Make sure it is exactly parallel to the desk. If the left wheel is slightly askew, it will haunt you for the next 45 minutes. We understand. This is a safe space for people who believe that a single misplaced pixel is a personal moral failure. You are among friends here. Or, more accurately, you are among highly competitive rivals who are also trying to organize their sock drawers by fabric density. You do not just want to do a good job. You want to execute reality without leaving a single human fingerprint. You believe this is a superpower that keeps you sharp. You believe your hypervigilance is actually a highly refined aesthetic preference. This is your first mistake. Every single level of this condition comes with a glittering reward and a massive, hidden invoice. Let us walk down the ladder. Let us see exactly how far down you have climbed. Level 1, the Gateway Desktop Arranger. You wake up at 7 a.m. and decide today is the day your life becomes clean, systematic, and entirely predictable. You look at your computer desktop. It looks like a digital salvage yard. It contains 42 loose files with names like final_draft_version_3_really_actual_final and draft for real this time editorial review final version 4. This is unacceptable. A clean mind cannot exist in a messy folder structure. You spend the first 2 hours of your working day creating a beautiful, nested hierarchy. You build a master folder called Projects. Inside, you create subfolders for year, month, client, and priority. You color code the icons. You assign custom metadata tags. You feel a sudden, warm rush of absolute control. You are not just organizing files, you are organizing your soul. You look at the clean, empty expanse of your desktop wallpaper. It is a masterpiece of digital minimalist feng shui. The actual work day finally begins at 10:30 a.m. You need to write a simple email to your team about a scheduling change. You type 3 sentences. You stop. You look at the font. You realize Calibri is the typographical equivalent of damp cardboard. It lacks dignity. It lacks authority. You select the text and change it to Helvetica Neue. You adjust the line spacing to exactly 1.25. You delete a comma. You add a semicolon. You open a web browser tab to read the exact grammatical history of the semicolon on Wikipedia, just to make sure you are not using it in a way that would make a Victorian headmaster frown. You spend 45 minutes ensuring a 30-second administrative update feels like a luxury Swiss watch. The email is perfect. It is a monument of corporate prose. You read it aloud to yourself to check the auditory cadence. You adjust the rhythm of the second sentence, so it flows like a stream in the Scottish Highlands. You click send. You feel a brief spark of triumph. Then, as the sending progress bar disappears, you notice a tiny typo in the second line. You wrote there instead of there. Your heart drops into your stomach. Your hands turn instantly cold. The warm rush of digital control evaporates. You feel like a wanted criminal. You stare at the sent folder with a sense of profound betrayal. You wonder if you can log into the company mail server and delete the email before anyone opens it. You consider sending a follow-up email with an apology, but that would draw attention to your shame. You consider setting the office building on fire. This is level 1. The reward is a clean surface. The cost is 45 minutes of absolute panic over a single letter. You tell yourself you will do better tomorrow, unaware that you have just signed the lease on your new mental prison. Level 2, the infinite iteration loop. At level 2, you have realized that finishing a task early is an evolutionary impossibility. The myth of the overachiever who submits their work 3 days ahead of schedule is just that, a myth invented by people who do not care about the quality of their souls. To a true perfectionist, an early submission is not a victory. It is an admission of cowardice. It means you gave up before the deadline forced you to stop. You have a presentation due at 4 p.m. on Friday. By Wednesday afternoon, you have a functional, highly detailed draft. A normal human would close the file, have a cup of coffee, and go home to watch television. You, however, look at the completed slides and feel a cold, creeping suspicion. If it was this easy, you must have missed a fundamental structural flaw. The iteration loop begins. You open the file. You do not just proofread. You reevaluate your entire life strategy. You decide the color palette of slide 4 does not properly match the emotional undertone of the quarterly financial projection. You spend 2 hours converting the hex codes from a corporate blue to a slightly more contemplative navy. By Thursday night, you have completely rewritten the executive summary 9 times. Each version is slightly shorter, then slightly longer, then slightly more poetic, then slightly more aggressive. You are like a sculptor trying to carve a marble statue with a toothbrush. You are removing microscopic layers of material, hoping to find the divine form hidden beneath. It is now Friday at 3:15 p.m. The presentation is due in 45 minutes. You have not slept more than 3 hours a night since Tuesday. Your desk is covered in empty coffee cups, crumpled sticky notes, and crumbs of toast you do not remember eating. Your eyes are bloodshot, and your left eyelid is twitching in a rhythmic pattern that resembles Morse code for help. You are still editing. You are changing the word utilize to employ on slide 14. Then you change it back to utilize. Then you decide that both words are too pretentious, so you write use. Then you worry that use is too simple and makes you look like a child, so you go back to employ. At 3:58 p.m., your boss sends you a message asking where the file is. Your hands shake as you drag the file into the upload window. You click submit at exactly 3:59 and 59 seconds p.m. You do not feel proud. You do not feel accomplished. You feel like you have just escaped from a burning building with nothing but your underwear and a wet blanket. You receive immediate praise from your director. They tell you your attention to detail is unmatched. This is your reward. You are validated. You are the legendary high-performer who always delivers gold. But the cost is that you now believe your safety depends entirely on your near collapse. You are convinced that if you do not suffer, if your eyelids do not twitch, and if you do not edit until the final second of the final minute, the work will be garbage. You have linked your professional value to your physiological torment. Level 3, the flawless procrastinator and the tutorial scholar. You have reached level 3. You have discovered a brilliant defense mechanism. If you never finish a project, it can never be judged. The only way to preserve the pristine, flawless beauty of your ideas is to keep them trapped inside your head, safely away from the cold, muddy fingers of reality. You decide you want to learn a new skill. Perhaps you want to learn Python programming, or master the art of video editing, or understand ancient philosophy. You do not start by actually doing the thing. That would involve making mistakes, and mistakes are the psychological equivalent of stepping on a rusty nail. Instead, you become a professional student. You open a web browser and buy 3 different online courses on the subject. You purchase a premium notebook with high-density, acid-free paper that costs more than a decent lunch. You select a set of archival-grade fineliner pens that promise not to bleed through the page. You sit down at your clean desk. You open the first tutorial video. You do not just watch it, you document it with the intensity of an archaeologist recording the ruins of Pompeii. You pause the video every 12 seconds to take notes. Your notes are spectacular. You use 3 different ink colors. Blue is for main concepts, black is for standard descriptions, and red is for critical warnings. You use a plastic ruler to draw perfectly straight boxes around key definitions. You create elaborate, nested bullet points with customized icons for examples and exercises. You spend 4 hours watching a 20-minute introductory video. You have produced 6 pages of beautiful, color-coded, highly categorized notes. They look like they belong in a museum of modern calligraphy. You look at your work with a sense of deep, spiritual satisfaction. You have mastered the introduction. You are a scholar. You close the notebook, place it carefully in your desk drawer, and promise yourself you will review these notes tomorrow before moving to the next module. You never open that notebook again. 3 months later, the notebook sits in your drawer under a layer of light dust. It is a sacred relic of an ambition that was too perfect to live. If you actually tried to write a line of code or edit a video, your hands would shake. You would make a mistake. Your program would crash. Your video cut would look choppy. The reality would look incredibly ugly compared to the beautiful, neat boxes in your notebook. The reward of level 3 is the preservation of your potential. You remain a genius in exile. You are always on the cusp of greatness. The cost is a constant, low-grade fever of guilt that follows you into every room. You look at your shelf of untouched, perfect notebooks, and they feel like a row of tiny, expensive tombstones for things you were too afraid to start. Level 4, the Micromanaging Martyr. At level 4, you realize that other people are the primary obstacle to your mind. It is not that you actively dislike your colleagues or your friends. It is just that their standards of quality are a direct threat to your psychological existence. They do not see the world through the same high-resolution lens that you do. They are content with things being functional. You find this attitude offensive, most violent. You are assigned a group project at work. You try to be a modern, collaborative team leader. You assign a simple, straightforward task to a colleague. You ask them to create a brief summary slide of the project goals. They return the draft to you 3 hours later. You open the file. It is functional. It contains all the correct facts. But they used a bulleted list instead of a neatly aligned table. They used 3 different shades of green that do not belong to the same color family. They used the word utilized twice in the same sentence. And worst of all, the text box on the left is 3 pixels higher than the text box on the right. Your chest tightens. You feel a sudden wave of hot, silent anger. You look at your colleague, who is currently sitting at their desk, happily eating a bag of chips and looking at holiday destinations. How do they do it? How do they walk through the world with such reckless disregard for basic visual hygiene? How do they sleep at night knowing their text boxes are misaligned? You do not offer them constructive feedback. To explain why those 3 pixels matter would require you to explain the entire structure of your universe, and you do not have the energy for a sermon. Besides, they would probably just look at you with blank, cow-like eyes and say, "Does it really matter?" Yes, it matters. It matters to the gods of order. You look at them and say, "This is a great start, thank you. I will just polish it up a little bit before we submit it." Your colleague smiles, says, "Awesome, thanks," and goes home at 5 p.m. They have dinner with their family. They watch a movie. They sleep for 8 uninterrupted hours. Meanwhile, you stay at your desk until 3 a.m. completely rebuilding their work from scratch. You delete their slides. You recreate the entire layout. You manually align every single element using a digital guide. You rewrite every sentence so it sounds like it was written by the same highly specific, anxious voice, your own. You are the classic micromanaging martyr. You do all the work, you suffer all the stress, and you resent everyone else for not helping, even though you would never let them help anyway because their help is low quality. The reward is a flawless final product. The presentation is a triumph. The client is thrilled. The company wins the account. The cost is your complete freezing isolation. Your colleagues think you are a control freak. They stop trying to contribute because they know you will rewrite their work anyway. They let you run yourself into the ground, and you sit there at midnight, muttering curses under the fluorescent lights, completely unaware that you are the architect of your own misery. Level 5, the AI Agent Tinkerer. You have decided that human beings, including yourself, are too flawed to manage your life. Your systems are still messy because your tools are limited by human execution. But we are living in the future now. You do not need to rely on your own weak, tired brain. You have AI. You decide to automate your daily administrative tasks. You want a system that takes your raw thoughts, formats them, matches them against your calendar, and drafts perfect responses to your emails. You do not just write templates. That is for amateurs. You decide to build a custom network of local AI agents. You spend a weekend watching tutorials on advanced agent frameworks. You download development libraries. You open your terminal. You write a Python script that connects multiple language models together in a complex, multi-agent chain of thought. Agent A will analyze the tone of the incoming email. Agent B will draft a response using a customized style guide that you spent 5 hours writing. Agent C will review the response for potential grammatical errors and formatting consistency. Agent D will compare the proposed meeting time against your local availability and suggest 3 optimized alternatives. You feel like a god. You are not just a person anymore. You are a systems engineer. You are building a digital brain that will run your life with mathematical precision. Monday morning arrives. You receive a simple email from your coworker. It says, "Hey, are we still on for lunch at 1 p.m.? Your multi-agent system springs into action. Agent A analyzes the tone and classifies it as informal casual. Agent B drafts a 3-paragraph response expressing enthusiastic anticipation. Agent C reviews it and decides the word enthusiastic is slightly overused in the training data, so it changes the sentence structure. Agent D attempts to parse your calendar, but encounters an unexpected API format error because you marked your lunch break as personal strategy session instead of lunch. The entire chain of agents stalls. The script crashes. Your terminal fills with 300 lines of bright red error logs. Instead of writing back, "Yes, see you then," which would take exactly 4 seconds, you spend the next 6 hours debugging your Python script. You edit the prompt templates. You adjust the temperature of the language models. You rewrite the error handling logic so the agent can better understand the difference between a lunch break and a strategy session. By 4 p.m., you have missed the lunch entirely. Your coworker is confused. Your eyes are dry from staring at a black screen full of nested code blocks. But you finally get the agent to run without throwing an error. You test it. It successfully drafts a response to an email you received 9 hours ago. This is level 5. The reward is the absolute high of technological preparation. You feel like you are standing on the edge of the future, fully automated and perfectly optimized. The cost is that you are spending 40 hours a week maintaining a system that saves you 10 minutes of actual work. You have automated your procrastination, and you are calling it innovation. Level 6, the Sentimental Archivist and Memory Editor. You do not just want your future to be perfect. You want your past to be perfect as well. You believe that your memory should be a clean, curated museum where every exhibit is a testament to your social grace and intellectual dominance. You are sitting on your couch on a Tuesday evening. You are trying to relax. Suddenly, your brain decides to play a high-definition recording of a conversation you had at a coffee shop 3 years ago. You had ordered a medium drip coffee. The cashier, a young person with a friendly smile, handed you your change and said, "Enjoy your coffee." Your brain, which was busy calculating the optimal path to your table, selected a pre-recorded response from your social interaction database. You looked them dead in the eye and said, "You too." The cashier's smile did not just fade. It froze. It lingered on their face like a digital artifact on a corrupted video stream. For a fraction of a second, they stared at you, trying to calculate how they could enjoy your coffee. They realized it was impossible. You realized they realized. You grabbed your coffee, walked to a corner table, and spent 40 minutes staring into the black liquid, wondering if you should change your name and move to a remote island in the South Pacific. Your brain replays this memory in ultra-high definition. You feel the same cold spike of adrenaline in your chest. Your hands twitch on the couch. You do not just cringe. You begin to edit the memory. You sit in your living room, staring at the wall, and mentally reconstruct the scene. In your new, revised version of history, when they say "enjoy your coffee," you do not say "you too." You pause, offer a warm, perfectly timed smile, and say, "Thank you, I hope your shift goes well." The cashier looks at you with admiration. A bystander applauds. You run this simulation 12 times until the original memory is buried under layers of highly polished fiction. Then, your brain shifts to a different exhibit. 5 years ago, at a family dinner, your uncle asked you what you did for a living. You were in the middle of a complex transition, trying to explain your interest in digital content strategy and psychology. Your uncle, who has owned a plumbing business since 1984, looked at you, took a slow bite of his potato, and said, "So, you make internet videos for people who are sad? Is that a real job, or are you just waiting for the lease on your apartment to run out?" At the time, you froze. Your throat felt dry. You muttered something about market trends, engagement metrics, and organic growth. You sounded like a prospectus that had been left in the rain. Your uncle just nodded, looked at your father, and asked if the local football team had a chance this season. It was an absolute train wreck of a social interaction. For the last 5 years, you have been drafting the response you should have given. You have developed a beautiful, devastatingly clever speech. In your mind, when your uncle asks his question, you do not freeze. You look at him, put down your fork with slow, deliberate confidence, and deliver a brilliant critique of the traditional service industry versus the modern digital attention economy. You use words like cognitive mapping, existential validation, and systematic engagement. You point out, with a light, devastating touch of sarcasm, that while people will always need their pipes cleared, they also need their minds cleared, and your margins are significantly higher than his. Your uncle is silenced. Your father looks at you with new respect. Your aunt wipes a tear from her eye. The reward of level 6 is a mental gallery of absolute victory. In your thoughts, you are smooth, funny, and always correct. The cost is that you are no longer a participant in your own life. You are a historical revisionist. You are spending your precious, limited present-moment energy trying to win arguments that ended in 2021 with people who have already forgotten you were even in the room. Level 7, the Spreadsheet of Destiny. You have reached the final level. The ladder has ended. There is no more climbing, only the cold, clear peak of absolute analysis. This is the place where your need for correctness meets the physical world, and the result is a monument of engineering. 5 years ago, you needed to buy a toaster. A normal human being walks into a department store, looks at 3 models, picks the one that is on sale or matches their microwave, and goes home. They accept that a toaster is a simple, temporary machine designed to apply heat to bread. You, however, knew that to buy a flawed toaster was to invite chaos into your kitchen. You could not risk an unevenly browned slice of sourdough. You could not tolerate a dial that did not have a satisfying mechanical click. You opened a spreadsheet. It was not a simple list. It was a multi-tabbed master document that you named Toaster Evaluation Matrix 2021 version 1.0. You listed 34 different models across the top row. Down the left column, you established 22 distinct evaluation criteria. You tracked the following variables: exterior dimensions in millimeters to ensure perfect alignment with your countertop depth, metallurgy of the heating elements, comparing nichrome wire against quartz tubes for thermal distribution efficiency, power rating in watts relative to slot volume, calculating the heat density ratio, mechanical dampening of the high lift lever to avoid a violent popping sound that might disturb your morning routine, aesthetic compatibility of the stainless steel finish with your existing kettle, user reviews. From 5 different e-commerce platforms, filtered specifically to exclude 5-star reviews, which are obviously fake, and 1-star reviews, which are written by people who do not know how to plug in an appliance. You spent 3 weeks researching. You read white papers on the thermodynamics of browning reactions. You downloaded PDF manuals to study the wiring diagrams. You watched video reviews of people toasting single slices of bread at various settings, analyzing the color uniformity using an image editing tool to check the pixel variance. Finally, after 42 hours of analysis, the spreadsheet pointed to a single, mathematically superior option: a medium-priced brushed chrome model with a retro dial and a slide-out crumb tray. You bought it. It cost $84. It is now 5 years later. You are standing in your kitchen. You look at the toaster. It has a small scratch on the side from when you moved your blender, but otherwise, it is pristine. You put in a slice of bread. You press the lever down. It slides with a smooth, heavy hydraulic resistance that feels like the door of a German sedan. 2 minutes later, the toast pops up. It is a perfect, uniform shade of golden brown. It is a physical manifestation of your intellectual victory. You open your web browser. You look at the newer toaster models released in 2026. They have touchscreens. They have Bluetooth connectivity. They have built-in cameras that use AI to detect the moisture level of your bread. They cost $300. You look at their reviews. Users complain that the software crashes during boot up, or that the companion app requires a monthly subscription to unlock the bagel setting. You look back at your 2021 brushed chrome machine. You feel a deep, smug, almost religious wave of satisfaction. Your spreadsheet was correct. You beat the market. You out-engineered the manufacturers. You extracted maximum value from the capitalist system through the sheer force of your analytical discipline. This is your greatest achievement. You have proven that if you analyze a decision long enough, you can achieve immortality in the kitchen appliance sector. The reward is absolute. You have a perfect toaster. It has delivered 5 years of mathematically optimal performance. The cost is that you spent 3 weeks of your life, 42 hours of intense mental labor, and a significant portion of your sanity to save $26 and avoid a slightly burnt edge on a piece of bread. You treated a minor domestic purchase with the same gravity as a multilateral nuclear disarmament treaty. You won the battle of the toaster, but your spreadsheet is the only thing keeping you company in the quiet house. You sit in the kitchen, eating your perfectly toasted bread. You look at your clean desk, your nested folders, and your quiet phone. You realize that the world outside your window is messy, loud, and poorly formatted. It does not care about your margins. It does not respect your database schemas. It does not read your color-coded notes. It is a wild, beautiful, chaotic system that is constantly failing and constantly rebuilding itself. You have built a perfect fortress. You have avoided every possible error. You have minimized every risk. And you have never felt more tired. If you are going to be trapped in a psychological loop, you might as well have the most mathematically optimized kitchen appliances on the block. That 5-year-old toaster is not just an appliance. It is a monument to your analytical superiority. Maybe it is time to let something fail today. Send an email with a typo. Leave a file on your desktop. Write a line of bad code. Buy a toaster on a whim because you like the color. It will feel terrible. Your chest will tighten. Your hands will turn cold. But you will survive. And you might actually get something done.